August 3rd, 1963. A sprawling estate in Virginia. A man sits on the edge of a bathtub, holding a 28-gauge shotgun. He is Philip Graham, the publisher of the Washington Post. He is one of the most powerful men in America, a kingmaker who whispers to presidents. But he is also a man losing his mind, screaming that he is being watched. He pulls the trigger, and the secrets in his head are scattered across the tile floor. The police call it a suicide caused by manic depression. But in the shadows of Washington, the spies know the truth is much darker. Philip Graham was a key player in a secret war that didn't use guns or bombs. He was a conductor in an orchestra that played the music of the CIA. Welcome to the Shadow Dossier. Today we declassify the operation that turned the news into a weapon. This is the story of how the CIA infiltrated the media. This is Operation Mockingbird. To understand this operation, you must meet the man who built the machine, Frank Wisner, a wealthy Southern lawyer, charming, brilliant, and utterly ruthless. He ran the Office of Policy Coordination, a covert branch of the CIA. Wisner famously said he could play the media like a mighty Wurlitzer. A Wurlitzer is a massive theater organ that can mimic the sounds of an entire orchestra. Wisner wanted to push a button in Washington and hear the tune play in London, Paris, and Rome. In the late 1940s, the CIA realized that the Cold War was a war of ideas. The Soviets were spending millions on propaganda. The US needed to fight back. They decided they couldn't just rely on the truth. They needed to own the truth. They needed to own the journalists. Wisner began a massive recruitment drive. He didn't hire shadowy figures. He hired the best and the brightest. He targeted the New York Times, CBS News, Time magazine, and the Washington Post. He went to the owners of these media empires and asked for their help. And here is the shocking part. They said yes. They didn't see it as censorship. They saw it as patriotism. The arrangement was simple and elegant. The CIA would provide scoops and exclusive access to cooperative reporters. In exchange, those reporters would write stories that favored the agency's agenda. Or, even more importantly, they would kill stories that the agency wanted hidden. But Mockingbird went deeper than just influence. The CIA actually put journalists on the payroll. By the 1950s, the CIA had over 400 journalists working secretly for them. Some were full-time agents posing as reporters. Some were freelancers paid cash for specific articles. They were stationed in every major capital in the world: Berlin, Tokyo, Cairo, Rio de Janeiro. Imagine you are reading a newspaper in 1954 about the coup in Guatemala. You think you are reading objective news from an independent reporter. In reality, you are reading a script written by a CIA officer in Langley. The reporter is just a typewriter for the spy. They planted stories to overthrow governments. In Iran, they printed fake news about the prime minister to incite a riot. In Guatemala, they used a fake radio station to convince the army they were outnumbered. The news wasn't reporting history. It was manufacturing it. But the mighty Wurlitzer wasn't just for foreign audiences. The sound echoed back to the United States. This is called blowback. Propaganda planted in a foreign paper would be picked up by American wire services. It would be reprinted in the New York Times as a fact. The American people were reading lies that their own government had invented for enemies. The operation was run by a secret fraternity. The Georgetown set. Spies and journalists went to the same parties. They drank whiskey together. They married each other's sisters. They agreed on what the public should know and what should remain in the dark. For 25 years, this system worked perfectly. The media was not a watchdog, it was a lapdog. But then came the 1970s. The Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal. The trust was breaking. In 1977, a reporter named Bernstein dropped a bombshell. Bernstein, the man who took down Nixon, wrote a 25,000-word exposé for Rolling Stone. He revealed the scale of the CIA's network. He named names. He exposed the collusion between the press and the spies. The article sent shockwaves through the industry. The New York Times was furious. CBS was embarrassed. The Senate launched an investigation. The Church Committee. They dragged the CIA directors into the hearing room and demanded answers. William Colby, the CIA director, admitted that the agency had relationships with reporters. But he insisted it was necessary for national security. He argued that in a world of lies, America needed its own megaphone. But the damage was done. The veil was lifted. The CIA publicly promised to stop paying journalists. George H.W. Bush, then CIA director, issued a directive banning the practice. But skeptics asked a chilling question. How do we know they stopped? If you have a network of assets that controls the narrative of the world, do you really dismantle it just because you were caught? Or do you just bury it deeper? Do you change the names? Do you change the payment methods? Look at the world today. Look at the close relationship between intelligence agencies and cable news pundits. Look at how quickly certain narratives spread across every channel simultaneously. Is the Wurlitzer broken? Or is it just playing a digital tune? Frank Wisner, the man who built the machine, had a tragic end. As the operation grew, the pressure broke his mind. He became paranoid. He thought his own machine was turning against him. In 1965, he took his own life with a shotgun, just like Philip Graham. The architects of the Matrix were destroyed by the reality they created. Operation Mockingbird teaches us a hard lesson about the nature of truth. We assume the news is a window to the world, but sometimes the news is a mirror held up by a man in the shadows, reflecting only what he wants you to see. The greatest trick the spy ever pulled wasn't stealing a secret. It was convincing you that what you read in the morning paper was true. This concludes the file on Operation Mockingbird. We have seen how they control the news. We have seen how they control the spies. But what happens when they try to control the paranormal? What happens when the US Army hires psychics to walk through walls? Next time, we open the file on the strangest unit in military history, men who stared at goats. Men who tried to kill with their minds. We are going to declassify the Jedi warriors of the US Army. Next file, Project Stargate, the Psychic Spy Unit.